So where are we?
We're in Redmond, Washington.
Great. So that's it. That's a wrap.
That was easy.
Tell us who you are.
So I'm Paul Yuknewicz. I'm the program manager for migration and community on the Visual Basic team.
And how long have you worked on the VB team?
I've worked on the VB team for over 5 years now.
Wow. And
I'm still here.
What was the status of VB when you started? Like working on which version, what stage?
So when I first came in, VB.net hadn't shipped yet. And we just released, we just disclosed VB.net at PDC. And so I probably spent the next year or so working on just what we call VB.net 1.0.
So in the last
2002.
last few versions, what have been the areas that you worked on specifically?
Boy, that's kind of a long... I've worked on just about everything. So I started out working on the web features, like the web designer, the HTML editor, and things like that. Brought you favorites like pretty formatting. After that, I spent a lot of time working on data, especially data design. So things like the data sources window, table adapters, in-tier data, things like that. I originally worked on those areas.
And like what kind of...
Oh, I forgot of one. I also was the program manager for Visual Basic Express.
Oh, okay. That's exciting. So what features in VB 2005 specifically did you spend most time on?
I spent the most time on the data features, pretty much all of the data features to do with design time. So the wizards for consuming database data sources, web service data sources, object data sources. I also spent some time building things like the data source window, so it's easy to drag and drop fields from any piece of data onto the form and create UI. Or you could also connect existing UI forms to existing data parts. Spent kind of the majority of my time on that. And in parallel, I helped get VB Express off the ground so that we had a really great product at the lowest end for hobbyists and enthusiasts who want to try VB programming.
I was about to ask you what is VB Express for those who didn't know, and you kind of defined it.
Sure. So just to say it again, yeah, VB Express probably is the easiest product to get started with. It's small. It's about 35 megabytes at a minimum, 80 megabytes at a maximum. And it lets you do pretty cool hobby and learning scenarios, so you can build complete, kind of compelling Windows applications. You can integrate them with data, and there's things even like starter kits, where it makes it pretty easy to build specific applications, like a screensaver that shows pictures and binds to an RSS feed. Or you could build a collection of your favorite movies and bind to Amazon.com web services to get the information about the movies.
So it does have, you can do some data connectivity, web services.
Yep.
It's got a lot of the core
features.
It's
very capable. It has most of the full features you need to make a good, compelling Windows application. It's also, like I said, focused on learning, so there's a lot of resources that teach you how to programming, or even if you know how to program, just how to take advantage of the environment.
So,
which brings me to the third thing that it's good at, which is it's good, it's really connected to the community. It's probably the first product we've built from the ground up that has the community in mind. So there's things like community headlines that you see on the start page. Pretty much every feature where you want to use content, whether it's starter kits or item templates or controls, you have the ability to search for the community to get more content, which is a pretty cool thing.
So a lot of times a program manager like yourself is viewed as someone that works on features of a product. Mm-hmm. And now you keep talking about community. You're talking about community in the product, and I assume that part of your effort every week at work is working on community efforts.
Yes.
More and more communities like a feature to the product and the customers, not just something external online, independent of the team and so forth.
So that's a good way to put it. A lot of times as a program manager, we think about how to build the best possible product so that the product is exciting, it can do and help you build the kind of applications that you want to build, and it's the most productive product. What we want to do is have that same kind of a feeling in the community, where the VB community is a great place to be. It's really exciting. You can have a lot of discussions with peers in the community, with folks at Microsoft. So I'm spending a lot of my time just figuring out how we can do that.
So if someone was walking down the hall or saw you in the cafeteria, hadn't seen you in a year, and said, Paul, you look great. What are you working on these days? How do you respond to that? What do you tell them? Like, what are you working on now? Now that we're on the eve of the shipping of VS 2005 and VB 2005.
Right. So I'm working on pretty much all things that help make the VB product a great place to upgrade to, and that make the VB community a great place to be. So specifically, that means thinking about how can we share the excitement we have in the team about our products and about some of the things we're doing with folks in the community. That excitement really scales, and it helps us together build some momentum and to build more connections with more developers.
So how do you interface between the community and the product team into like creating new versions? We've been hearing about VB9, a future version of VB,
Yep.
some exciting new features with data, programming link, and other areas too.
Yep.
How does that happen? I mean,
Sure.
and is that something that's growing and getting better?
So if you look at it from a 10,000-foot view, the VB product is really completely built for the developer, for the customer. We spend a lot of time listening to customers. Something we've definitely had room to improve at, and we're getting better this year. I'm pretty proud of the team for being better listeners this year. So we spend a lot of time just listening and looking at different places through the product cycle where customer feedback and community feedback really fits in. So you're in a planning phase, and you can talk about slides and pillars for the product. That's a good place to start. Once you move on, and we've actually started building some features based on what customers tell us they want, we can show some of those bits and get early feedback about how well you think that resonates with you. And then later on in the product cycle, which we're pretty familiar with now for VB 2005, we can actually share community tech previews of the latest build and make sure that it's doing the right thing in production. So that's sort of how Microsoft and the team really shares with the community. And then there's a number of channels that help folks in the community have a discussion with us. So if you want to ask a question, there's things like the VB forums on forums.microsoft.com. That's a great place to ask questions and share information. There's things like the VB team blog. That's where we talk about what's going on in the team, what's going on in the product, just what we're up to, and we can get some feedback there. And then there's also a number of events that we do, like we visit user groups, we visit conferences like PDC and like DS Live, and that's always a great opportunity to actually put faces to the names that we're seeing in the forums.
I assume one of the things you're working on even more so now than before is providing things to the community and MVPs and so forth, things that they can use to help do what you're doing, kind of have you reach out so that you're almost like scaling yourself out.
Yes.
So that some of the people in the community are extension of the team doing these same things you're doing, right?
That's a great way to say it. So we really do look to folks in the community, and especially our MVPs, to really be the best sort of ambassadors or kind of extensions of the team. So they're helping us to represent the best information, technical information, some business information, and we spend a lot of effort here trying to package up what we think is the essential content in the product, the essential content for the future, even essential business content, so that folks in the community really have accurate information, good information to help others with.
So if someone asked you, what are the goals for community efforts on the VB team?
Yes.
And what results do you expect?
Okay, good question. So there's probably 3 goals that we're going to be focusing on this year. Just kill my screensaver. So the first one is just to share that excitement that we have about the product, and use that to kind of build more excitement in the community. If the community is an exciting place to be, then it's going to be a better community. So that's one of our top goals. Second goal is really just to share our best technical information and our best business information so that our developers can really be informed, have the best content, know how to do things, explain the product in business and technical situations, that kind of a thing. So that's our second goal. And the third one is about just closing the feedback loop. That's what I call it. So it's basically having a discussion at the right times during the product cycle so that more members of the community know more members of the team, so that our team can be really transparent about our goals and our plans for the year, and so that we have lots of chances throughout the cycle to have the conversation, get feedback back from the community.
So what are some examples? Do you have anything to show? Demos? Stuff online?
As a matter of fact, I do.
Cool.
So one of the cool things that we're doing this year is we're building some, you could kind of think of them as extensions to the product, or just cool things that you can try now that make new things possible. So
these are things that ship in the box or stuff online?
These are
both?
things mostly online.
Okay.
So actually, let's flash. I have a slide on this.
Okay.
I'd like to share with you guys. We'll maximize it. So if you go to msdn.com/vbasic, this is what we call the Visual Basic Dev Center, and this is really home base for all of the best and kind of most exciting things that we have from the VB team. And we have a sublink under that called PDC-05. And you can think of this as sort of the essential content that we have right now across the product. And over time, we plan to add more essential content, add more exciting things, so I definitely keep an eye on it. Let's actually click on it. Help me, Ken. Software glitches even happen to the rest of us.
So what's this content from? Is it just stuff that relates to the PDC event filtered on the topic of Visual Basic?
Good question. So this is really more about just the essential content that we pulled together. A lot of times in the Visual Basic team, we think about what are really the best events that we can use that'll get the word out and that'll sort of touch the most developers. So PDC this summer was the best event so far to talk about this. So what this has is things like our essential content, demos and samples that you can try, demos that you can show that kind of show the best parts of VB 2005. We have some future content on here, and we even have some case studies.
So besides the case studies, I assume a lot of this is very developer-centric, not as much marketing. It's just good information to help you learn how to use it or learn what's coming. And
exactly. It's probably 80% purely developer and technically focused. So you won't see a lot of things trying to sell you on the product. It's really about how you can make the most of using it. There is some things like case studies that could help you in a marketing sense. If you need to just see some examples of people who've tried some of the things maybe you're trying. So let's actually take a look. So if we scroll to essential content, we have basically the best of the best in all the different content areas. So we have articles, we have videos, we have tools, we have complete books, we have the Express edition, and we have samples. So let's call out a few things. If you go to tools, one of the cool things you might not know you could do is you could add refactoring support to Visual Basic using a partner product that we call Refactor for Visual Basic by Developer Express. And basically what that means is as you're developing, you're probably thinking about better ways to reorganize your code. For example, you want to move some code you have that you use a lot into a method so you can reuse it, or you want to rename some code, or you want to reorder parameters. That's the kind of thing that VB refactoring support lets you do. And now we have a tool that's freely available to the community that you can grab.
Now you say we have a tool, but isn't this an example of some community efforts right here, or some?
I'm glad you said that. So the real motivator for having this refactoring support is as we were reviewing our plans for VB 2005 with the community over the last 3 years, we heard loud and clear from the community that refactoring is something that's important, that really could help in VB-oriented tasks. So based on that feedback, we partnered with Developer Express to add this capability. And so it's kind of support asked for by the community, delivered to the community. And it's a good example of how your feedback can really change the way we build the product.
And I see there's other things like code snippet editor that's could be used with any type of code snippet, but it happened to be written in VB, and it
Exactly.
works well with...
So the backstory here is that we think snippets are a great way to be productive when you're developing applications. So if you have a task, we probably have a code snippet for it. The thing we're missing this product cycle is a good way to create and edit these snippets, which are just little XML files. So one of our MVPs, Bill McCarthy, partnered with some folks on the VB team and kind of created a community team effort. And as a result, they created this snippet editor tool, which is just an add-in that you can use on top of VB 2005. And it's also released as shared source on a .NET workspace.
When you use the words "this cycle," as a program manager, I know you have to deal with things like resources, budget, timing. And you can't do everything in the version you're working on. Sometimes you postpone things, but then maybe you don't want to wait another year and a half for something else. It sounds like you're working with the community more and more to be partner up in a sense, to provide some missing components that create a whole story or add some key productivity in a certain area. Maybe not 100% essential to the core product, but things that are really nice add-ons.
Yes, I completely agree. So,
but this is just the
like you
beginning.
say, we have finite resources, so we try. We'll do the best we can to work your feedback into the product. But even if we can, there's other ways we can respond together. We can, write add-ins. We can write extensions. We can even, document some processes that pull all the features together. And that's the kind of thing we want to do on an ongoing basis, with help over the next few years.
And I assume this is just the beginning. I mean, you'll see other add-ons like this online, especially after VB 2005 releases and the community continues to work.
Absolutely. And we're looking for good recruits in the community to help us, spearhead some new projects that we haven't even thought of. So you asked me what some exciting things were. So I think this is exciting. It also speaks to just what information we have to help you. So I also want to show you something new that we have in the demos and samples area. So this page shows you some of the best demos and samples that we have in the VB team. And it really emphasizes productivity in a number of different spaces: Windows, web, Office, and mobile. Not to mention, these are usually the demos that we show when we go on tours. So now you can use our best demos.
So if there's some town where the VB team can't make it to do a tour, that you get recruits from the local user groups or MVPs or regional directors, all these types.
Now you get all the best content, that even if you missed it. So let's scroll down. One of the coolest things, which is really late breaking, is we added some rad support for working with blogs. So everybody knows that email is kind of 1990s, and blogs and RSS feeds are one of the new ways that people are communicating and getting the word out and sharing information. So we want to come up with some ways that as a VB developer you can ride this wave and do some cool things in the blogging space. So we have an extension to the My namespace, which is a signature VB feature, that lets you do blogging. And you can do some of the common tasks in about a line of code. So you can read blogs, you can write blogs, you can read comments, you can even refresh your list of blogs. So probably rather than speak to it, I could just show you.
Before that, would you say that kind of almost several areas of these samples are, one is to have somewhat of a useful tool that you might come in handy in either personal use or some application.
Yep.
Another is to show off how one might read and use RSS, whether it's from a blog or some application feed or something.
Yep.
And the other is to show the application extensibility of the MyDot feature in VB 2005.
Yep.
As a great example.
I think you said it all. So
now let's see the demo.
Here's some things I'll add to it. So you mentioned that here's something cool you can do and show you how it works in action. So we have a Windows blog reader that we built using my.blogs, and also a UI starter kit that gives you that Outlook-like look and feel. So that's pretty cool. You can build a web part in ASP.NET that helps you aggregate blog feeds, kind of like what you see on MSDN. And this one I'm really excited about. You can actually build an Office Outlook add-in that lets you read blogs, comment on blogs, and even write your own blog entries using VB.NET all inside of Outlook. So, like you say, it's a cool app on its own, and you can really see how we did it using VB.NET. So, speaking of which, let's take a quick look.
Oh, wait, when you click Try It, do you get like a zip file that has a project in it? What is that Try It button?
Sure. So you pretty much get everything you need to get going. So there's a README tutorial document that explains what the app is doing. You get all the source code, and you get the working app. So depending on how you like to learn, you've got all three of those avenues.
But then some people might not care about the code, just want to use it as a tool.
Which is great.
Either way. Okay.
So right now I've opened the Windows Form Reader project, and let's just go ahead and start it up. So we'll hit F5. And what we're seeing is an Outlook-like look and feel. So you have some navigation on the left-hand side. You have details and inner details on the right-hand side, and it's got that nice split tab experience. And we even have toolbars and menus just like you'd expect in Outlook. So one shameless plug is you can get all this UI right out of the box just by grabbing the sample. And
I was
you can
about
make
to
your
ask
own
you, these are all
customizations.
native controls in VB 2005. Maybe.
Right. You could think of them as native controls, or you could think of them as composite controls, just basically user controls that give you more of the UI you want without having to write it yourself.
Somebody needs this kind of look and feel for a part of their app.
Yes.
They could actually just use this as a sample of the UI.
Definitely. Then what you can do is you can import subscriptions. So if you're familiar with OPML files, you can import and export OPMLs. We've already done that, and this OPML file has customer RSS feeds and blogs, essentially community blogs. We have Microsoft blogs, and we have industry blogs.
Okay.
So let's pick on the Microsoft blog. If you go to the Visual Basic Team blog, you can click on that, and then using My Blogs, we go ahead and read the list of blogs that are available. And if you click, you can actually see this is live data, to keep me honest. So we can see your Channel 9 video post is up here, and we can check out the VB Futures, all inside of this app.
Amanda on the VB team, Amanda Silver, posted that one?
Yes, I think you're right.
Now, is this list right here of RSS feeds something that's pre-populated, or did you, after you loaded in the sample, populate these?
This is pre-populated using an OPML file, which we shipped as a part of the sample.
Just to get started.
You can just think of that as a discovery list of URLs.
But
and
this,
you can create your own OPML file, or you can import one from
Got it.
one of your favorites. So, for those of you who want to kick the tires, here's an example of what it looks like to code against my.blogs. So this is the code that actually goes ahead and loops through the list of feeds in your OPML file and then reads that particular feed. So you can see it's pretty easy, just my.blogs.read, and you pass in a location, which is a URL. And
so to be clear, the .blogs part of my is not included in VB 2005. It's an extension in this application example add-in.
Exactly, that's a good point. So if you look at my.blogs, or sorry, just the my namespace, there are a number of built-in things, so application, computer, forms, resources, settings, etc. That's what's built into the product. But we have a hook for developers, so anybody can add their own extensions to the namespace. So you get that my-like experience with new objects.
Click dot after computer to see like the sublist.
So my.computer,
yeah.
And then you could do something like work with a file system,
right,
and copy a file. And roughly in one line of code, you can do something meaningful.
Yeah, it's very productive. Now go back to the blogs, and what does that one look like?
So we look at my.blogs, and you can see IntelliSense is helping us here. So you can read, passing in a URL. You can read an OPML file, which is that list of RSS
So to
feeds.
see the code to do that, it's right there.
Yep.
And that's part of one of the downloads.
Exactly. And you can also do some writing operations, so you can write your own entry or publish it. We support pretty much any blog that works with MetaBlog API, if you're interested. And we can read any RDF, RSS, or Atom feed, which is pretty cool. And
If someone wants a my.foobar, this is a good example of how to basically...
it is.
Example of extending my dot and not...
It's a good example, and one thing you should also have a look at, if you go to that PDC-05 site, there's an extending my namespace article that you should read by
okay.
Joe Binder, and that'll really
And Joe Binder
give you a good
is
overview. He's a fellow program manager on the team.
who worked on MyDot and
He worked on
extensions. Yeah.
exactly my.
Yeah.
Cool.
So,
That's probably
any
my
other?
most exciting example.
How about other demos or other content you want to show?
Sure.
Go back to that page. There were 3 different downloads. How do you? Okay, one is on. Which one were we looking at just now?
So we were looking at the web part. Sorry,
Not the web.
the Outlook-like Windows blog reader. So we also have a web and an Outlook reader, which are pretty cool.
Okay. And then.
You're going to make me nervous, though, because I don't know if I've installed those on my machine.
No, you don't have to show them. Let people try them out. And
That's definitely something I tried.
And this is an actual Outlook?
It is. So a pretty cool
Very
thing
cool.
that we've just added, late breaking to VB 2005, is the ability to write code behind in Outlook. So if you want to add new features to Outlook, or if you want to add extensions to existing features, you can go ahead and do that, and you can write it in VB code.
Is this using Visual Studio Tools for Office?
Right, so this uses Visual Studio Tools for Office. So actually, let's come back to the product real quick. If you go to New Project...
Now, before you could do this code behind for Excel and Word, but now
Exactly.
the late-breaking news you're referring to is
So,
the Outlook.
Like you say, we've been able to work with Excel, Word, and Excel documents. And it's basically like you're writing code behind in VB.NET for those documents. Now you get the same experience with Outlook, where you can write the code behind for your own add-in using VB.NET.
So you could still use VBA if you wanted to, but now you could actually be in VS using VB.NET.
Exactly.
Got it.
So what you're able to do is basically glue together Outlook, my.blogs together, and now you have the ability to read RSS feeds from my.blogs, and then you can talk to the items and the folders in Outlook and populate that with blog information.
Now, in order to download and run that Outlook add-in sample, do you need Visual Studio Tools for Office?
You need a product that includes Visual Studio Tools
Just
for
to run it,
Office,
or just to see the code, or both?
to run it.
Okay.
You can always see the code,
Okay.
but to actually try
Got
it
it.
out, that's what you're going to need.
Okay.
You also need Outlook 2003.
Oh, okay. All right.
So,
What else is on your list of things? Other examples of community content online,
sure.
community participation, all that stuff, forums.
So one thing we touched on, let's go back to this slide. So we talked about the PDC content. I want to call out the futures section. So if you want to get, so I'll have to copy and paste. If you want to keep an eye on what our team is up to, looking at the future, this is a great site to go to. So if you haven't heard of Link yet, that's something cool you should check out. It really gives you the ability to work with data access right inside of the language.
When people say version 9 of VB, what is that? What does that mean? What does it imply?
It basically just implies it's the next major version of the Visual Basic language and of the Visual Basic product.
It's kind of an internal code name in such a way, right? 'Cause
It's kind of like an
not-
internal code name. Another one, it's always hard to predict when a particular feature will come out, so sometimes we talk about v.next
Yeah.
or just talk about the next version, which implies that's where features are going.
Yeah. So there's information about the link data programming and other features currently being prototyped and reviewed.
Definitely. So if you go down to, you can see an overview of all the features that are in VB9. That's pretty cool. There's actually a technology preview that works right on top of your build, Visual Basic 2005. So that's an example of how you can try out something early right now and let us know what you think.
Will there be another download for the shipping version, probably?
That's our intent. We'd like
Some
to,
kind of a preview?
Pretty soon after we ship the final release of VB 2005, which is in a few weeks, or maybe not when you've seen this video, but
Around the time the video comes out.
around the
sometime.
time the video comes out, we'd like to have another updated version of the preview, which will be a little bit more full-featured. It'll have more of your feedback built in, and it'll work a little bit better.
Now, what's cool about the preview is it doesn't require a whole new full install of VS. It's actually an add-on
That is pretty
to
cool.
VS 2005. And I assume a good tip, which I've found, is use virtual PC for these betas. You could have different versions, images.
That is a good point. Unless you want to spend 2 days a week reinstalling machines, it's probably a good idea to isolate yourself a bit.
Yeah, you can install something. Hey, that didn't quite work. Just close, not save it, retry something else, and get it working. Save that.
Yep.
Copy these images. So like having a bunch of machines.
That's a really good point. That's one thing we're thinking about as a team is how can we release some more virtual PC images.
Now, if someone read one of these docs online and had some really good feedback to provide, where would they go? Where's
That's
a good
question.
place to provide feedback on?
So I want to point out a few things. So there's a number of Visual Basic bloggers, and if you see feedback on a particular blog, you can just click on it and add comments. That's always a good place to go. Let's go back to the slide.
The VB Team blog has that, right?
Right. If you want to ask questions about the product, the best place to do it is the VB forums at forums.microsoft.com. And just click on Visual Basic.
Okay.
My entire team is hanging out there, so that's just a great place to ask any kind of question at any level. Another thing you can do if you want to talk directly to us is look at the VB Team blog. So it's blogs.msdn.com/VBTeam. And all of the VB Team members who are blogging aggregate their content off of that feed, and you can hear from us and respond directly.
Now, I would expect that as VS 2005 is about to release, that the community efforts and participation by a whole bunch of VB Team members are going to go up because they've been so busy working on the product, and now they're going to get out there and talk about it, get feedback.
Yep.
So it's a combo of the enthusiasm of the latest version and then also getting feedback for what we want to do next.
Right, so now is a really good time. I've been talking about the product cycle. Now is a really good time where we're not quite as heads down, we're taking a breather, and we really just want to get out there and talk to you and talk about what we can do with this product for the next few years. So you'll be seeing a lot more of us hanging out there, and since it's launching, I expect to see a lot more developers signing on in the community as well. So
right.
We really have something that's launched and ready to go.
So like questions about how to use VB 2005, ideas on how to apply new features,
Yep.
all that.
One thing you could consider, if you have suggestions about the product or if you have issues that you're experiencing, there's another thing called MSDN Product Feedback Center, or msdn.com/product feedback.
Yeah.
I didn't put it on the slide, but I'll just mention it. It's a good place for specific suggestions. But also, if you in an open-ended way just want to ask a question and give us feedback, the blogs or the forums are a good place.
Now the feedback place is also a great place to post a bug report and then track the status of it yourself.
That's right. So you can give us what we call repro steps, which is basically step-by-step, here's how you can encounter the problem. Our team looks at every single one of these bugs, just like we look at the bugs that our own testers create, and we'll have a discussion with you about this particular bug. Hopefully we can fix it, but even if we can't, we'll consider what we can do. Another cool thing is there's a voting feature, so you have the ability to vote for a bug fix, and we look at the bugs that float to the top that have the most votes, and we give those more priority.
I assume that people say, why would you vote down a bug? And sometimes there's scenario issues, right? Or what would it impact? And so there's slight design issues that some people label a bug.
Yes.
And so, but this is an example of the community being more part of the VB team itself, right? And it's just growing all the time.
Yeah, that's a really good example. We took a look back at just the issues we fixed, and a lot of them were due to feedback from things like the Product Feedback Center, which is really cool. So it's an example of how the folks in the community made our product better. It's also, I think it's helped us get more responsive and take more opportunities to get out there to hear how the product is being used. As a program manager, you have an idea about how the product's used, but you never really know until you have those discussions and see specific situations where the product is being used.
So here's a slightly off that topic question is, it's kind of like, what would it be like to work with the VB team for a week? Like if someone came in and just had a boot camp week, just hung out with the VB team members, how would you describe their experience and their perception leaving?
Well, this is kind of an out-of-body thing. It's very subjective. So I'll speak to just I think I get most excited waking up, just talking to customers, hearing about what they like, what they think should change, and as a VB team member, the cool thing is you can pretty much make an impact on anything, whether it's the product or whether it's content that gets out there to the community, or whether it's helping out a specific developer. So I think one impression you might have is that you're empowered to do a lot of different things on the team. You can wear a lot of different hats. One thing that's challenging is that the team is pretty big, which means there's a lot of different members and different organizations that you need to coordinate with to get any specific thing done. So you have to be kind of a good negotiator, things like that. And the other thing, like I think you mentioned it before, is we do work on pretty big projects with a limited budget and a limited time. So it's a real challenge to get focused on the big things you have to get done each version and with each feature, so that
how would
you can build the right product.
If someone were walking down the hall hanging out with the VB team for a week a year ago versus today, would they see a difference? Is there more or less enthusiasm, energy? How do you describe the difference in a year?
I think the VB team has been very ambitious and very energized over the last year, and I've really noticed that take hold. Like, the VB team has been hungry to hear what customers are saying. We've been eager to please and build those features, make those tough changes, do those things in the last year, and really to get it out the door and ship. So I think our own excitement levels have gone up. I think culturally there's many more members of the team who spend much more time hanging out in the community and hear what's going on. So I think we've broken down some of the walls that might have existed before. And I think
if I came back in 6 months and we had you show what's been going on in community in the last 6 months, what do you expect people to see beyond what you showed us today?
Okay, so I expect to see more focused and better essential content that helps with kind of the key things we're working on with VB 2005. That's one thing. I expect to see kind of many more exciting announcements about things that we're going to do on top of VB 2005. I expect to see a few more collaborative projects between Microsoft and community members on the idea of the snippet editor. Like I said, it's a good opportunity to get hooked up.
Would you expect them
And I expect to see, so we're actually shifting gears a bit because we're about to get this product out the door. So I expect to see a lot more openness about our plans for the future version, like VB9, coming out for us and having more discussions about what people like and what people don't like.
Like if they're reading about and trying out the new bits for future VB9 stuff, they add their feedback, maybe in a future free download community preview, they'll see the results.
That's right. And I think one thing to keep in mind is we can't fix everything. We can't add every feature. Like I said, I can't, add all the features I want to, but a lot of the most important features and the most kind of voted features will definitely show up. And not to mention, we can at least have that discussion and be responsive about every request. So that's the commitment that my team will make.
So my last question is, recently there was this MVP summit. You got to spend time with many VB MVPs.
Yes.
What was their common theme and their feeling leaving about what they've seen about VB today, VB going forward, future?
I think my favorite quote, I just read a blog entry by a fellow MVP, Jim Duffy, and he said that VB Mojo is back. And that pretty much summarizes the feeling I was getting from the summit. I think the MVPs came in pretty charged and pretty open to what we're trying to do this year, and they left feeling pretty energized about the product, about the future, and about some of the things we've accomplished together in the community. So I think I look at all the years past, and I think this has been the most exciting and the most positive summit we've had. And that just makes me feel like that excitement has the opportunity to really scale out to the entire community. So I'm pretty positive about it.
Great. Well, thanks for your time, Paul.
Thanks, Ken.
We'll talk to you again later.
Sounds great.
Bye.
See ya.